I'm Kylie Hall, and I've been a research scientist with Fisheries Victoria for over 20 years. I'm happy to be amongst so many long-time colleagues and friends today, which is pretty much how I'm not imagining you all naked. Don't like public speaking. I'd like to share with you some observations on the anglers of these wild trout streams and their catches. More and more people are visiting our wild trout streams. Are they fishing? Are they taking fish? Are they taking too many fish? Are we loving our rivers to death? To investigate this question, we undertook some strategic research in the northeast wild trout fisheries. In this area, we established a tag reward program in a case study river, the Haupa River, to understand the fishing rate of exploitation. We investigated fisheries officers' records to analyse the level of angler compliance with regulations in this region, and we undertook an angler survey to determine usage patterns of anglers fishing these wild trout streams. In the Haupa River, 82 trout caught by electrofishing during fish population surveys were tagged with a reward tag dart and released. There was a $100 reward for anglers to report these catches of these fish, and the accumulated catch data will be used to provide an exploitation rate for this fishery after they've been at liberty for a year. A good source of data is between fisheries officers and people actively engaged in recreational fishing. The contact numbers we'll provide don't include educational or school groups. Compliance contacts are categorised according to the severity of the penalty. A questionnaire form was developed and targeted angler surveys were conducted on site at Upper Goulburn Basin rivers over the 2014 and 15 trout season. The creel clerk completed 13 days of interviews. Interviews were targeted to high visitation days from January to April. Of the 82 tagged fish in the Haupa River, only 5 have been returned to date. This is a very low exploitation rate. All of the 5 tagged trout were caught within the vicinity of their initial point of release, within the Haupa River. So we can say that these fish were resident, exhibiting little or no movement, a 1 kilometre maximum. Our boys in blue are 2 local officers based in Alexandra. In the last 3 financial years, nearly 4,500 contacts were made, on water and on land. 576 offenders were recorded of all types, but only 9 prosecutions were made. 5 of these related to trout and salmon, with offenders exceeding bag limits. So we can say that only 0.1% of all contacts were bad guys. Our creel officer from Alexandra travelled 3,675 kilometres over 13 days and spoke to 172 groups. 113 of the groups were fishing parties. The majority of camping areas are on the Haupa River and Upper Goulburn River, and the majority of interviews were made in these locations. These rivers were also where the fin-clipped yearling trout were released in September 2009, and again this year. Importantly though, most groups interviewed were visiting the region, and most were staying at least overnight or longer. The fishing parties were asked to categorise how avid or how keen the most experienced angler in the group was. So the 4 categories of anglers are committed, advanced, active and casual. So committed anglers are those who rate fishing as a central focus of their life. Their social life revolving around fishing, who fish as often as possible, are prepared to travel for premium fishing, using species-specific tackle, like flies, applying the latest techniques, tending to release any fish caught, and typically continuing to fish when the fish don't appear to be biting. The words passion and zest come to mind, and the partners of such avid anglers may suggest that they should be committed. Advanced anglers are the next group, who consider angling as their most important leisure activity, with a circle of friends including many anglers, fishing often, may travel long distances for good quality fishing, prefer high quality tackle, usually targeting a particular species, often releasing fish caught, rarely losing interest even when the fish aren't biting. Active anglers have fishing as one of many leisure activities, occasionally going fishing with friends or family, fishing regularly, but usually those waters that are relatively easy to access close to home. Preferring common techniques and proven tackle, will often target a particular species and usually take the legal-sized ones home, occasionally losing interest when the fish don't appear to be biting. And then there are the casual anglers, who might perhaps have been lucky enough to grow up in the northeast with a love of the outdoors and fond memories of fishing as quality time with my dad. Oops. These are the anglers who fish only occasionally, spending much leisure time pursuing other activities, or perhaps having their leisure time restricted, being the parental taxi service, where fishing is always based on convenience and easy access, preferring common techniques and proven fishing tackle, which may have something to do with not being a very confident knot tyer. Primarily targeting whatever species is biting on a given trip and harvesting all fish legal to keep, and I'll admit it, often losing interest when the fish aren't biting well. Most of the groups interviewed identified the most avid angler in their group as casual anglers, with fishing one of several reasons in choosing their destination. Yet, while there were more casual anglers by number, similar proportions of each of the fisher types stated that they would usually release all or most of any trout caught, with the active anglers proportionally stating that they would release more fish caught, which again fits our categorisation. The colours relate to the number of fish anglers reported that they would release. Purple is a few, green is some, red most, and blue is all. Fishers who had previously fished in the region were asked to compare their catch rates, with most suggesting that their catch rates appeared lower, and those that had caught fish, which would usually make an angler happy, were asked if they were satisfied with their fishing. 12 were unsatisfied, 10 were satisfied, and 3 were unsure. The reasons for dissatisfaction were generally related to fishing, for example, a lack of fish or increased numbers of carp or bankside blackberries. But the reasons for satisfaction often included other aspects. Quality campsites, love the area. 25 trout were caught by our non-resident, only 8 were kept. So we asked the question, does size matter? While a range of sizes were released by all angler categories, the largest fish caught and released was around 27 centimetres by a committed angler. As you'll all be aware, for rivers and streams there's no minimum legal size, and the smallest fish kept then was 13 centimetres by a casual angler. Anglers behaved as expected, with casual anglers keeping fish at smaller sizes, although you'll see that as each bar represents a single fish, the committed anglers may be fewer in number, but they appear more likely to be able to catch a larger fish. Also to note is that no one individual visitor caught the bag limit of 5 fish, although there was an advanced resident who mailed in a form and reported fishing most days for 3 to 4 hours, averaging 5 a day and releasing most. I'd like to mention here that all groups interviewed were very positive about the survey and willing to contribute, and were very interested in the topic. They'd all like their children to be able to experience fishing in these streams into the future. Now, filtered here by the fishers though, the presence of carp was a common comment, with many observed. Also decreased flows and low water levels, blackberries along the river edges, and an increase in rubbish. The timing of the surveys may have had an impact here in that they were January to May because there was minimum river flows and higher water temperatures at this time. So we can put all of these observations and evidence together to conclude that there's low exploitation, there's really good compliance and extremely few overbag prosecutions in this region, and there are many visitors, few actually fishing, and that even these casual anglers are releasing the caught fish, and of the fishers, only 5% are taking the fish caught. The harvest rates appear low, so it seems that we're not overfishing our wild trout rivers. But we're not done yet. We're repeating the angler interviews during the 2016-17 trout season. So, if you're a regular angler of these waters, I'll encourage you to remember that the survey sheets will be available locally at the Information Centre, so you can have input even if you're not approached by our creel officer on the rivers. And with my own personal interest and experience in invasive species management, I'll ask you all to consider over the next few years how you might be involved when the koi herpes virus is available to assist in the national fight against carp. Thank you very much.
Authorised by Victorian Government, 1 Treasury Place, Melbourne.